was easy for me. The difficult part was my making the decision not to run for mayor. And I had to release my God complex. This complex that said only I could do it and only I could have a vision for our city and only I would be the one to take our city to the next level over the next 4 years. And my prayer when I was able to release that was that God would show the person who would have that vision and who would be the right leader for this season. I've worked with Andre over the past 8 years. I was on city council with him for 4 years, and then 4 years as mayor, and also with his opponent for nearly 12 years. I know the difference in their hearts. I know the difference in their leadership styles. If you are familiar with our city, Southwest Atlanta is a community that really is comprised of primarily African-American community. We're experiencing some gentrification, but always struggling to keep up with the rest of the city. And what the biggest contrast that struck me with Andre and his opponent, what I wanted something as basic as sidewalks in Southwest Atlanta. His opponent voted no. Andre voted yes. When I wanted to host a jazz in the park like we have in Piedmont Park, one of the largest parks in the city, but I wanted to do it on our side of town, his opponent voted no for the funding. Andre voted yes. And the list goes on. And leadership is not just about being a no, it's about what are you for. Now, all that being said, Andre hadn't always agreed with me. Andre hadn't always voted with me. But what Andre has done is shown me why he disagrees with me, why he believes his vision is better. And, you know, I have to respect that in a leader. I know Andre personally. I know that he's a good person, just a good-hearted person. You'll never meet anybody who has anything bad to say about him as a man. But on top of that, he's a leader. He's done things for our city. He has been a staunch advocate for affordable housing in our city. We are experiencing gentrification across this city. Andre has come up with innovative ideas to make sure that our communities remain inclusive. He helped create our department, came up with a concept for our Department of Transportation in the city of Atlanta. Everybody talks about traffic in Atlanta. And then in his personal life, on the professional side, he works for a program that creates pathways to prosperity to people. So he's not somebody who's just talking about this because he wants to run for mayor, because the reality is Andre was not running for mayor until I got out of the race. His opponent had been put in the race to try and take me out. But Andre, when I made the decision to get out, Andre offered himself up for service. So this was work he was doing, not knowing that he would be a candidate for mayor. And as somebody who's raising 4 kids in this city, that's all we can ask for in our leaders. Unselfish leadership, bold and courageous leadership. And that's why I'm putting my support. That's why I have already voted for Andre. I voted early.
Yandy.
Who applause machine? Because that
I can tell you now that you need her with you on the road, because that was good. That was real good.
Well, you know, as my mama said, you only got to tell the truth once. So it's the God honest truth.
I was already sold, but you definitely nailed the nail on the hammer right there, for sure. So for me, Andre, as you know, I am an implant. I'm new here, and I love it here. I moved to Atlanta because I felt like this was a place that I wanted to raise my children. I felt like this was a place where our businesses thrive. I was so inspired by all the business owners that are in Atlanta. You cannot be in Atlanta and not be inspired when you walk into all of these establishments that are booming and popping, and they're all owned by young, amazing Black faces. That was inspiring to me, and I wanted to make sure that my children grew up seeing that and loving that. So my store, I opened up a store, and I'm opening up a restaurant in the same area at the Underground, which I heard is the Atlanta spot, or it used to be, and we are turning it back into the Atlanta spot. one thing that I'm noticing right across the way is, I forgot what the area is called, but it's over where my girlfriend Rashida's spot is and Candy's spot. There is a lot of gentrification that seems like it's happening over there in that area. And it feels like a lot of the small businesses are closing down, getting pushed out. I'm noticing more and more vacancy signs. I don't know if it's the rents going up. I don't know if it's just, it's not affordable. I don't know if there's larger companies and corporations coming in and buying up those spaces from us. But what are we doing to protect small Black and brown businesses so that we don't have to go out of business? That's one question. Now, this is a two-part question. My second question is, I'm at the underground, and I'm constantly doing community events because the amount of homeless friends we have is striking. All day, every day, there are so many young people that are just estranged from housing, and they just really seem like they have no option and nowhere to go. And I talk to them all the time because I do, food giveaways, clothes giveaways, sneaker giveaways, book bag giveaways. So they know me in the neighborhood, and they just come and talk to me and just say they have no option and they have nowhere to go. So what are your plans for both of those things?
Mm. So, part of this is, I want to tip my hat to Mayor Bottoms, and she came up with a $25 million housing opportunity bond, and it got matched by the philanthropic community for another $25 million. We're going to have $50 million to start helping with homelessness.
That's amazing.
$5 million homeless opportunity bond. And that's money that we're going to use to build more affordable housing for extremely low income people that are experiencing homelessness. We went out, got that passed, and also, we had the philanthropic community, those with the money, the big foundations match that money. And so now I will actually be the beneficiary of it as mayor, because, she had to end with the COVID. But part of it was actually started right at the beginning, middle of COVID, where we rented out, basically bought out a whole hotel to house 800 people that were experiencing homelessness during COVID. So individuals now are actually in apartments or on their way back to self-sufficiency. That gave us a model when we bought out that whole hotel to put people in, because by the way, we had shelters, but during COVID, you can't put people in shelters because you needed to be 6 feet apart. You had restrictions and things of that nature to keep everybody safe. So individuals chose to sleep outside in a tent or in a doorway of a house, of a building, because of COVID. And they didn't go back going into shelters. Our shelters right now still have vacancies. So, they're like 70 to 80% occupied. So there's still 20 to 30% room left in our shelters. People are just, people that are experiencing homelessness are like, I don't want to go into a shelter. I want to have my own space. And so with Bottoms and this council and the leadership with Partners for Home and our nonprofit partners, we put them in a hotel. Well, that is called the Housing First model. And the Housing First model, we need to duplicate that. Buying up hotels that are inside the city or just outside that are kind of abandoned or not looking up to snuff. We have to get them up, put beds in them, get them to a place where we can put the homeless individuals in those places. And that's where we can triage their situation. Them mental health challenges, domestic violence. We can help them right there with their families. If they are a veteran, we can help them get their ID, get reconnected with the VA. If they just got it, because here's Tamika and Yandy, homelessness is one of those conditions that it can happen to any one of us.
Absolutely.
You can miss 2 or 3 paychecks and find yourself like, dang, I got evicted. Man, I go to a friend's house and then their family situation changes. They're like, Andre, we can't stay here. And you sleep in your car for a while. Then the car gets repoed. I've heard of situations where in like 3 or 4 months, people go being housed to unhoused. And so the challenge is making sure that we use this housing first model, that if you just down on your luck, you get about 60 days to go back to work, to go to Goodwill or Georgia Works or First Step Staffing or some of those places that can help you get a job to get back to self-sufficiency. We'll get some of this homelessness down when we go with this housing first model. And we were able to do that during COVID.
So let's do this last question. I think from Yandy's perspective, obviously business and education, and of course now the, a question about homelessness, houselessness, as we say, is really